Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for part two of the Making Your Case series, all about becoming an advocate. I am Tasha Littles. I am the Director of Parent Support Network, the Parent Training Information Center, Central Florida Director. So you'll hear a lot more about the PTIs later on in the presentation. So I want to give some opportunity to have Lisa Math, who is our co-director of Family Star in United Families Children Mental Health. She covers those programs. So Lisa, can you give us a little bit about your programs before we start the Making Your Case Being an Advocate?
Perfect. Thanks so much, Tasha. Love collaborating with you on this really exciting series, especially with election season coming around the corner and how we can make our case for what we want our voices to be heard for. And so, as Tasha mentioned, I am the co-director for the Family Star and United Families for Children's Mental Health statewide programs. Both of those programs serve the entire state. And the Family Star program, I support families that have a loved one birth to age 26 with any type of complex medical conditions or special health care needs or developmental disabilities. And the United Families Grant, we support families throughout the state that may have a loved one with any mental health challenges or diagnoses. And again, we support them to birth to age 26. So I'm really excited to be helping to support our families once again with you, Tasha. So thanks for being here today.
Thank you. So let's get right into our presentation about being an advocate. So in this module, we'll hit a few topics, because the last module we talked about voting, the importance of voting, and just having that kind of introductory into being an advocate 101. So that was the first module. So in this module, we're going to go over terms. We're going to look at the legislative process, and you'll see a lot more of that in the latter slides. All right. One thing about Family Network on Disabilities, and I want to make sure that I get this right and so that everyone hears it, is that almost everyone who works at our organization has a child, or is a caretaker, or is a person with a disability themselves. So our lived experience allows us to really have empathy for families when they are making decisions about what's going to be best for their families. We're not attorneys, we're not paralegals, we're not medical professionals, but we do provide support, we do provide understanding, and we do provide resources so that you can make the best decisions. So I just really wanted to make sure that our friends and family out in Facebook world understood that, because we do walk the walk and we do talk the talk when it comes down to disabilities.
Great, Tasha. Thank you for explaining that and clarifying it. So I know that you were reviewing all that. I had moved this slide ahead, but I just moved it back to make sure that we're all on the same page right now with regards to being an advocate and what we are going to be addressing today in our workshop. So these are the objectives that we hope to share with you today. So we're first going to learn about the 3 A's of advocacy. We're going to learn knowing who to talk to, who's in the district that we're dealing with and where we live, understanding the rules, and knowing the issues that we should pursue and to advocate for. So let's start with the 3 A's of advocacy. So as you can see here on the slide, the first one is awareness. Okay, awareness is we need to know who our family members, our friends, our colleagues, and more importantly, our legislators are. Because remember, we are trying to advocate for change throughout our state, our district, our local communities, and we need to know who those movers and shakers are that we're going to be tapping into. The second A is for advancement. Advancement means by getting involved, you are advancing a cause, a movement, an idea, or affecting policy change. And so that's really important to understand because, again, advocacy has very deep tentacles in our communities and can really change the way our lives are. And the third A is for action. Action means making contacts, writing letters, making calls, visiting officials, supporting organizations, going out to rallies. There are so many ways that you can truly be involved in the actions that will change the dynamics of our democracy.
All right, knock, knock.
Who's there?
Credibility. Why? Honestly, get it out of your head that you can't do anything even a little, but keep your eye on the ball. So credibility, it is the quality of being trusted. A person who is trustworthy, reliable, dependable, has integrity. Extremely important. Go to the next slide, Lisa. So when you talk about credibility and knowing who you talk to, just remember that before you meet with your elected official, your president, your governor, your mayor, your department secretary, your commissioner, council members, agency directors, and the list goes on. You should know which party that legislator belongs to. Your legislator has been elected to represent you and your interest, regardless of your party affiliation. However, it is important to know their party affiliation to determine if they are in the majority or the minority party in the legislature. So which district or state does the legislator represent? Representatives. We've heard that throughout our presentation and for this module and the last one. So representatives and senators at both the state and national levels represent distinct groups of people and primarily devote their energy and their requests and needs to those individuals. We're called constituents. So on which committee or committees does your legislator serve? So members of Congress are assigned to committees based on their interest, their expertise, their districts, states, and particularly those who are more competitive. Major committee seniority matters. Members usually serve on 1 to 3 committees. That's a lot of splitting up your time, right? That's why they need to hear from us so that they have all of the facts needed to make decisions. So when they're on the committees, they're often assigned based on similar criteria. So what is the elected official's legislative record? And that's very easy to look up. And what does she or he care about? Most legislators have a record reflected through votes. Remember that from Module 1, voting and the importance of voting? The legislation they have introduced and co-sponsored legislation introduced by other members. So virtually every issue under the sun, so before you're meeting with your legislator, you need to know where that member stands on issues that concern you and your community. So learn about their interests so that you can frame your message in a way that is bound to get their full attention.
I like to use this as an analogy. When we're parents, we want to get our kids' attention. Well, how are we going to do it? We're going to get them by what they're interested in or what they're passionate about. And that's how we go in through the back door. Well, the same applies for our legislators. We need to find what's going to make them happy and excited, and then use that as the entree to get involved with them. So, who's in the district that you need to be knowing about and working through? Well, remember that the best time to get to know your legislators is when they're actually back home in the district that they represent, and that's where you live. And so it's important that you make the time to visit them at their offices or at possible events in the community so that you can engage them in conversation. And there are ways to do that. Whether it be informal or formal, you may have an opportunity in an informal environment to spend more time with them and have a conversation. But don't forget about their district staff. Sometimes tapping into their staff is actually an easier way to get their attention, because if that staff member feels this is something that truly needs to be on that table or that desk of that legislator, it will get there for you. When you meet in their office, look at their photos. Know in advance if they went to the same school or attends the same house of worship or even has some interest or hobby that's similar. Again, we want to get their curiosity up by finding out what makes them human first, not what makes them a legislator. And we want to make time, but we also don't want to waste time. We want to make sure that we're getting right to the point of our conversation and making sure that they understand why we're there and what we're advocating for. You want to be a resource or a source of information for them. They may not have any idea what your interests are that you're trying to advocate for. So you may be the first time they're hearing about that particular issue. You want to make sure you have accurate, up-to-date information that you're sharing with them. Provide useful, balanced information that informs and establishes you as a person with credibility that they can turn to. You may want to also attend in-district events if they're throwing a town hall meeting or an opportunity for a meet and greet. Go and be in person. Let them see you there. Let them know that you are truly engaged and involved. Or what about inviting them to an event that you're having to raise awareness about what that issue is? What if you are raising awareness about a disability? Invite them to that event. Let them learn more about the people there that are passionate about this and all of the interest that is generated about your issue.
And Lisa, you know what? We talked a little bit about that when we went over the campaign to remove the R word. So, you know, make sure you're looking at that and inviting them because they needed to know about the issue. So they invited them to where they were going to find out more information about it. So.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up and reminding our viewers that, you know, again, throughout this presentation, you're going to learn that there's areas that we're sharing information that crosses over many of the topics we're talking about. Again, find and create opportunities for you to engage legislators and their staff. Be seen as much as possible, but most importantly, say thank you. Thank you goes a long way with them. They're human beings first and foremost, and they need to know that their efforts are appreciated, just like our children need to hear thank you, and our loved ones need to hear thank you. They are bombarded with requests and all kinds of demands from their jobs. They want the person that is truly appreciative of their efforts to be there, a part of the process that they're engaging in. So make your voice heard, but also know that being heard is being appreciated. So knowing the issues. You need to know your stuff, basically. You can't go in and fumble through when you're trying to advocate in any environment. And that's anything from an IEP meeting to a doctor appointment to seeing a legislator in his office or in an environment where he or she is going to be engaging you. Knowing your issues means knowing the bills, understanding what it is that's being voted on and being put through Congress. Educate yourself the difference between the Senate bill and a House bill. Is there a companion document that goes with that? Find that information out on the Florida Legislature website, which I believe if you look on our slide, you can see there's an online Sunshine website. Or you can actually just Google Florida Legislature and you can pull up a whole host of resources there. Read through, learn more about what's being considered on the floor and what's going to be voted on. Know your facts. It is critical to gain respect and credibility that you come in with the information that is accurate and up to date, and make sure that you're up to date on the information on that particular bill, because sometimes bills change depending on whether they've passed from the House to the Senate, and you want to make sure that you've read the most accurate version of that bill. You want to get your information from credible sources, not from your friend down the street. And make sure, first and foremost, that your message is clear and concise and understandable. What it is that you want and what it is that you are expecting are really, really important to the legislator for them to be effective for you on your behalf.
Okay, understanding the rules. You know, you mentioned in the last slide about, you know, how the bill gets to the Senate and how it gets to Congress. And it reminded me of growing up and listening to Schoolhouse Rock,
Yes.
I'm Just a Bill.
Yes.
And if our viewers are looking for that, you can find it on YouTube. It's a pretty cool way to explain the legislative process, which I love. So the rules of the game, it's very important to understand all of the rules. And like any game you play, each group that you're talking to, it's good to understand their rules as well. So the legislative process, it includes rules, ethics, and customs that constitute the decision-making process. The process is a journey from an introduction you're introducing that bill to the House or the Senate through markups until the vote and then the full legislature. And how it talks about how to address everyone. Watch the back and forth discussions between that happens in the Senate and it happens in the House, and pay attention to the aides. Don't ignore them. They are the gatekeepers, and we'll have a little bit more coming on them on the following slide. So and you also want to make sure that you find a mentor. Maybe attend some open meetings and observe the process. Or you know what, you can just Google it. We live in an age of technology that, information is at our fingertips. But you really want to make sure, no matter if you're finding a physical mentor or you're looking things up, that you're understanding how the rules are played out. So next slide.
Yep.
So a little bit more about understanding the rules, learning to meet schedules. So be aware of the legislative calendar when the legislature or Congress is in session in Tallahassee or in Washington, D.C., when they're on breaks, and likely when they're in their home districts. For appointments with legislators or their staff, you may need to take what you can get and not be so picky, and use every opportunity to advance your cause. Now, as I mentioned, in the age of technology, your legislators want to hear from you, either phone call, email, and even by Zoom or other platforms of video conferencing. You also want to know your legislative etiquette. So for some people, advocacy is a new role, and it may be uncomfortable, particularly if confrontation and conflict are involved. But conflict is usually a bad place to start. So we want to make sure that there's no gossiping, you're not threatening anyone. You want to make sure that you're dressed appropriately, that you keep your business cards on you. Print them out at home or inexpensively online if necessary. Act appropriately, no matter how passionate you may feel. If you can't handle this, find someone else who can make that point until you're ready. If you don't, you may not be heard. And this is to help you and your story. So be diplomatic in reporting on your experience. Remember, we talked about credibility a little bit earlier. It will inevitably get back to whoever you're talking about, and they may not want to meet with you. Be patient and considerate. Even if you had a fabulous meeting, you should not expect an immediate response to your comments or your concerns. Instead, make sure that you are the person who's following up with a thank you note or a thank you email to that staff person who took their time out to meet with you. You also want to make sure you keep in touch. Don't be a nuisance or a pest. It's okay to keep the momentum rolling after your meeting by following with a short email. Or if you prefer, you or your organization were written up a local publication or online, share that story and tie it back to a specific request that you had with your legislator. Keep in mind, you are trying to get them to understand something that is happening to you or in your community that needs to change. So act accordingly, no matter how passionate you may feel. Remember that this is your story and you want to make sure that you are heard. So if you want to see more laws and have more understanding of the statutes in the state of Florida, you can go to www.led.state.fl.us.
Great. Wow, so that was really great information, and I'm so excited that we're able to share all of this with you. And it is, as I said, this is our second of a 4-part series, so we hope you'll come back and join us for part 3 and 4. But with this, I would like to share a little bit more about how FND can support you and your loved one with a disability. As you can see on this slide, we have numerous divisions that support families, providers, educators, and professionals. So we have POPIN, which is Parents of the Panhandle Information Network. We have PSN, Parent Support Network, and PEN, which is Parent Education Network. All three of those are our parent training information centers designated through the IDEA law in the state of Florida. They serve with the families that have children with disabilities in the school systems, and they support those through the age of 22 that may need help with the IEPs, 504, advocacy work in getting what they need for their loved one. Then we have the two state programs, Family Star and United Families for Children's Mental Health statewide network. And those two programs are throughout the entire state. The Family Star program, we support families that have a loved one birth to age 26 that may have any type of complex medical need, special health care need, or developmental disability. And the United Families for Children's Mental Health supports that family as well if they have a loved one with any type of mental health challenges. Again, to the age of 26, we can support your loved one. We also have our Trust Division, which is under a separate umbrella, where they work with families that may need legal advice to create a special needs trust for their loved one. And we have our wonderful Dadvocates program, where we support fathers who are in the process of raising a loved one with disabilities and how their needs sometimes are a little more unique. And we try to give them the resources and support that they may need in the way that it works for them. And here on this slide, we have our website, www.fndusa.org. I encourage you to check it out. We have an incredible resource bank of information and downloadable resources that you can actually print out and take to some of your meetings that you're going to have out in the community with your providers. We have them in a couple languages. We also have a very active social media system that we work on 3 platforms: Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We are always posting up-to-date valuable information, live webinars, trainings, and information about other resources in our communities. And we also have an opportunity for you to do FND University also on our website, where you can, at your own convenience, check into our e-learning program that is non-accredited, but nonetheless will teach you how to be the best advocate for your loved one with a disability. And finally, I'm going to leave this with Tasha.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for spending your time with us, Facebook friends, family, professionals. If you would like more information or you would like to contact us, our contact information is right below the 800 number. You can go to www.fndusa.org or any of our social media platforms. If you message us on social media, we make sure we get back to you just the same as if you were to email or call in. So thank you again, Lisa. It's been a pleasure to present the second module, Being an Advocate, second in the series of Making Your Case. And we hope to see you for our third module on Making Your Case. Thank you.
Thank you, Tasha. And once again, thank you to all our viewers. We look forward to seeing you again in the future. Have a great day.